Good morning, everyone. There we go. All right, so a little fear of missing out yesterday. It was actually a gap and go to some extent. Not everything goed, but clearly the Qs did. They continued to move higher. So of interest, yesterday we did a little search, right? So a little search. We had conversation in the green room about where there are times where the market has been up as much as this one in the past and gapped up twice in a row. Only happened once in the past. That was during COVID. So interestingly, we spoke about this yesterday, that this gap up, that prior one, happened out of a conversation. And I said that supports this to continue to go higher. Now, going higher doesn't mean there aren't pullbacks. And after two significant gaps up like this, odds are we're going to get some kind of consolidation, some retracements. But looking at the Qs here pre-market, there's no evidence of that yet. I'll tell you, this is one of the things that I covered extensively in this new course. And some people ask, what's the difference between this one and that one? And I would say one of the differences is, while I covered similar things, not everything in the new course, and I didn't cover everything in this one that I did in some of the others, like complete money management and all that, but I did cover it. But I did broader strokes on, say, the swing course, whereas this one I did a lot of details as to different types of reversal patterns. And that's what we all need to see, these type of details and many examples of what has been going on. I'm just looking here for a shorter time frame that is 24 hours. I can just change this one. I see the Qs a little blast off there. So a little bit more of fear of missing out. And at some point, it's going to get too far ahead of itself and going to come in. So you won't be disappointed, Robert. There's a lot of examples, a lot of reinforcement, and did it a bit differently than I did the others. So I think you'll really enjoy it and get a lot out of it. And you can't beat the price for that level of education. So that was just a classic little, what I call a hook pattern, a little pullback pattern that we've been trading that setup, geez, since the 90s, the early 90s. And it still exists today because price patterns are reflections of what others think. And we get a nice move like that and a little pullback to minor support, the most basic thing. And the buyers come in and very enthusiastically, no hesitation. And so still supports higher prices until something changes. All right. Same thing. There was some news today. Yeah, I'm a little behind. That move that like that. It's more like a news type of situation. Yeah. All right, so let's put our red thing. It's got to go up there. And prior days high and low. So yesterday's high and yesterday's low becomes our first reference points of minor and major support on an intraday basis. And two gaps up at some point, it's going to go down and test the prior day's low. But on this time frame, or whatever time frame we're utilizing, but from a daily chart perspective, the first reference point of support is a prior day's low. And that's why during trending moves, we start tracking prior day's lows as a stop loss. We'll see when that happens. Positive housing data. All right. So with interest rates down where they are, these home building stocks should start seeing some money rotate into them, where it begun to happen and they stalled. And here's the 10-year, continues to move down. And if you didn't read this week's chart of the week, log into the site and check it out, because this is at a critical level where we don't want to see this breaking down below here. It will not be a good sign. We want to see it stabilizing, maybe inching up a little bit. All right, let me X. All right. So we're going to see more of the same, spiders and Qs moving up. Dow brought up the rear, and that shot up, moving higher. Where is it moving higher to? Cursor. All right, coming up to 480. Could it be on its way to 500? Could be. Let me see. Dow futures. UPS was up. Yeah, that is gapping up. That's coming out of a bottom. So that's another good sign. Um, UPS making this bottoming. It's been under pressure for a long time. So look at that red bar ignored that bullish 180 on the weekly. So, but not 1%. I think this is a 0.5%. So last I looked, on a third gap up, which is, I think, unprecedented. And also look at FDX. That has done better than UPS, but that should start to come out of this consolidation. And it's probably, yeah, it is gapping up here this morning. LEN, Lennar, it's a little buy set up there on the weekly time frame. It's gapping down. So I guess the numbers weren't so good for this. I'm interested in Home Depot. That's down also. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's down. All right. So with interest rates so low, if the economy is going to be doing so great, we should see these start to stabilize soon. And of course, the transports. All right. IWM, that was not doing much yesterday, and it's not doing much today, but it is up at this resistance area. So I would set an alert above this high and go back to the 65-minute chart. I would set an alert up here and see, well, you can above and below. But if it can stay up here, that would suggest it's going to take out those highs and go higher. So I would keep an eye on that. Regional banks, sell setup. And it came down hard those 2 days. It's in a downtrend. We got a red day yesterday. It's not doing anything today. This could be the fly in the ointment of the bullish case. We don't see these regional banks start to fall apart. Well, they're not doing much of anything this morning. Software had this, I wouldn't call it a flag per se, but it's got that downward sloping move, within this uptrend. Flags usually don't take this long, and they're usually not that erratic as this is, but it's taken out the highs. So there's a positive, and software is starting to move up. All right. Let's look at oil rolling over. Well, in the middle of nowhere. The depth of this move off of that low is actually a positive. So this is just chopping around so far near resistance. Gold continues to come down. Looks like it's going to be heading down there toward the 50 MA and 3,800 where that support is. The balloon is going to let the air out of that. Silver stabilizing, too erratic. No of interest. That probably has to come lower as well. Yeah, complete structure. Oh, you know what? I don't know if Dan has this on the list, but look at open. It's not the greatest of the great 1, 2, 3s, but this came off of the rising 50 MA and consolidated yesterday. Maybe that can take out those highs and move up a bit. Bitcoin consolidating up there. Okay. We'll check Trader MX. We'll check that email you sent to us. By the way, those in the green, anybody have any trouble logging into the website today? Someone's having some issues, and I don't know if anybody else. I mean, you're all in the room, so. All right. All right, let's take a look where SPX is. Yesterday, I said there was a reasonable probability that the upper level would get hit. Yeah, well, you would have to register because we changed the password, and it just about touched it. And the number down below was like, yeah, that unless there was some disaster, it was never going to get there. And that's what happens during extreme moves. Yeah, this should be no way it's going to get there. 69.25. It's on the other side of the whole number. And going on here. Hold on. Why can't I get that down there? Hold on. Go to a different screen. It's weird. $20. All right. And so we're back to about the middle now. The upside, after, I mean, a lot of this is just common sense. Right? Gap up, right? Small, unlikely. I don't think it's going to either one today. And most days they don't go to either one. So. Well, yours, Dan.
Mm-hmm. See, how big is this gap? We were talking and hoping for a big old short-term exhaustion gap, but even if it occurred, it's not an exhaustion where we're going to get a full breakout failure. It's just short-term pullback. It's a short-term FOMO. Oh, Greg, if you said it, I didn't hear. Did you talk about internals yet? Are they getting close?
getting closer. They're not there.
Okay.
Close doesn't count.
Yeah, right. No, so that's what we were hoping. So I said yesterday, I hope we get the same monster percentage gap today. And it's not. 687 is less than $2. So it's bullish, but it's not, that's not the exhaustion that I was looking for today. But that's fine. I guess that's going to make it harder to find new swing setups. I posted a small watch list here from earnings. And it's not a big list at all. This SYM, I just had an alarm go off. This is a definite put spread idea. I was going to post a pre-market, but the spreads are crazy. But that's a nice pattern for a put spread. So is GE. I posted this morning 180 breakout for directional and put spread. Google, we have a half lot. We're still long from yesterday. My up alarm went off. Now it's pulling in. Just let it play out. I have a tight stop in there. We have a nice run, and it has earnings tomorrow after the bell. And those are all my alarms. So let's go to earnings. CFLT 2440. That's a igniting gap. That's a very nice gap. I'll put that. Let's see. Yeah, all right, so that I like. Met C I like. It's a buy setup at the 50, and now you're gapping down another 250. So that I like. I have it here in the bottom right. Heel 1075. Yeah, maybe 30-minute high. I can watch it. Yeah, that was earnings. And I deleted some, like always, when we're in the meet, because there's no way I can get through them all. All right, CLS. Gapping up to 350. This is a gap in crap setup for day trading. And call spreads. I think I looked. If there's weeklies, I think not. Yeah, there is. Okay, so yeah, this is a tier one gap and crap and call spread. Oh, I just had a wolf alarm go off over these red bars. 1450. Wolf looks fantastic. Animal sector. Alex, you know who Wolf's cousin is? I know it's a little early for these type of questions, but no, Wolf. Wolf cousin is Wolf. Rambus. That was all-time high. That's a power move into earnings. And now all those bulls holding out pain. But there's no setup. Amcor 31 and change, no setup. CDNS, 30-minute low call spread. When I say that, you got to go through the checklist for liquidity, premium, spreads. NXPI, I had set an alarm up here at 224, but it's a mess. And I do remember historically spreads are pretty bad. So I'm just gonna move on. Bro, I said bear rectangle. If it opens flattish, it'd be a short watch. It's gapping under this base. I'll come back to it. Whiskey Mike, we were saying, what's going on with the garbage truck business? Like that's a bearish downtrend. 204. That's not a good gap and snap candidate, but let's see what it does. That's a pretty big gap down. NUE. I like put spread and directional. Oh, I liked it when it was down a little bit. Now it's going to be harder to. Well, I do not like it as a directional now. But if there's any premium put spread Friday, this was another bear rectangle. I said if it opened flat, short the low, and it's gapping up a little, which I like. I'm going to set an alarm 8620. That could be I love when they just bobble around and then they make new lows after 10 a.m. PFG sell setup, opening flattish. That's good. IG was another bear rectangle, gapping under it, but it's far from the 20. NTST is a bull rectangle. I can't see where it's opening. We'll come back. ARE 7050. That's a bearish gap down. Whether buyers step up at the open, I have no idea, but we'll come back to it. KRC gap been up here, 43.35. Gap's too big. FSIV was a bear rectangle, we said yesterday. But I also said if it were to gap over these two red bars, it would be a wonderful put spread. But 261, now that's down from 345, and that's a real company. So I'm going to put that in a window to watch. But pre-market, when I do gap and snap type setups, well, on all gappers, I look at pre-market pattern and look, this is bearishly going sideways. But the best gap and snappers also are Climo's pre-markets. So this is still telling me, despite the gap, it's not ready. Par was up. I had this as a put spread watch. Now it's a big mess. UHS 225, gap's too big. I think Sam and some others might have sold puts on that. Good job if you did. SNF was a sell setup, gapping here. SNF 30-minute low. Call spread idea and short. Polaris opening flat, no pattern. These are pre-market. UNH. This is the one you were doing puts on. I looked at it and I concluded there wasn't enough premium for me, but yeah, looks higher. And so, whenever you get these major ones, check the cousins. So what is it? Humana, ELV. We got UPS coming up here in a second. Wow, I sold the 81 puts on this. So I'll just wait 5 minutes and then close it at a penny. But you got to check the cousin. And Greg already did that. But yeah, FedEx, knee, it's up a lot. Getting extended. That was a potential bottoming pattern, but now it's gapping down. No interest. I got enough to look at. RCL. That's a pretty good whacking. Check the cousins, CCL, and CLH. And Alex, isn't Winnebago cousin? WGO. Wow, WGO looks good. Wow. All right, WGO. Wow. All right, DHI. This would have been a nice pattern above, what's today, Tuesday? Above Friday's high, but it's gapping down and, this, I saw other home builders getting hurt when that came out. Look at Len down. So I know one of you mentioned a positive reaction to housing numbers, but I disagree with that statement. Why do I disagree with it? Well, look at the sector. I mean, this is fact, not fiction. This is fact. It's gapping down and drifting lower. So it doesn't give two hoots about whatever number came out. R61. This thing trades too wild, but put spread, best situation. Corning, 85, no pattern. That thing's been on a tear. Look at weekly, monthly. PayPal is ripping here, and they are, doing a deal with AI again. Everything is AI. You say you do a deal with AI, it is just identical to my trading in the 90s about companies. Doesn't matter if they're a grocery store, gas station, flower shop. I'm getting an internet. I'm joining the internet, opening a website. Boom, and that's what this AI is right now. Somebody mentioned the news on Microsoft. Look, boom. That's the situation we're in right now. This has earnings tomorrow after the bell, and that would be a closing all-time high. So that's just what we're in right now. Can't fight it, can't do anything. All right, 610, gap's too big. Now, had this open at 590, I would be all over this for a directional, like 10, 15-minute high, whatever. But gap's too big now. 76. I don't like that. I would like this better if this were a red bar, because then it could be a gap and snap at the 200. But gapping under a green bar is more of a shock. Trying to finish these. I'm not going to do it. XYL, that's the put spread on a pullback, I think. I looked yesterday and it has no weekly, so Sophie gapping up above. That was a nice pattern. I was contemplating buying calls, but didn't like premium, but no pattern now. FMX alarm just went off. Oh, right there, FMX alarm. I actually had an up alarm at the 97. All right, so nothing on FMX now. Hub, nothing. Look at those overlapping bars. I just do not trade stocks like that. Checkpoint, big gap to resistance. Let me buzz through all these real quick. Zebra, ugly gap, no pattern. Extended, Charlie X-ray, nothing. Put spread at best. ATI. This is another gap and crap. Excuse me. Another gap and crap setup. Hey, FFIV. See what I said? I said I said it looked low. But there was a lot of buying deployed right there at the open. All right, whiskey. Gap's too big, but bullish. AIT. Gap and down. That's actually a condor setup. AOS. Ugly. Nothing. Nothing. Paxton. Gap got negated. WGS. Nothing. All right. So those are done with earnings. Alarms. PayX. All right. Nice. Low alarm PayX. We shorted that yesterday. Q's new high. IWM weak. Q's ripping here. I'm sure Apple is strong again from yesterday, but courtesy of Microsoft. All right, PayX, new alarm. New alarm, 125. Low alarm, 122.50. EOSE alarm. We did a put spread yesterday, the 14s. So we still have room. The low alarm went off. Netflix alarm. I'm watching this for a turn for a put spread. 30-minute high might be the day. Cliff Clavin. Yep, I still got a put spread, half lot. Powie. Ah, shoot, we have a half lot on Powie. And now it's not acting right. Let's see our stop. 42.48. All right, Powie stops. Our half lot. XCG L alarm. That's the bare rectangle, but gapped up and just collapsed. Nothing to do. Shoe, the old lady in a shoe. Not liking it. It's on probation. Breakout failure as of now. I'll set new alarms on my Cliff Clavin. 1410, 1370. And Mr. Shoe is not looking good at all. Oh, Sam, sorry about your Blue Jays, man. UPS. I mean, if it weren't Tuesday, I would just let this expire at full profit. I know they said it was the second longest gain. Oh, I thought I could close this at a penny, and it's 2 pennies by 3 pennies, the 81s. That is insane that there's still 2 pennies. Man. All right, I'll bid 2 pennies. Filled. All right, I got filled on the bid. I'm done with UPS. Yeah,